I think we can start. So thank you very much for coming today for our first FrontSpot event in Kraków. And let me very briefly introduce who we are and motivate you to come more often to our events. So my name is Anton and I'm a member of FrontSpot Poland. And we are a group of JavaScript enthusiasts who just love JavaScript, who love to code, and of course we love to create super nice applications. We like to develop ourselves, and we are happy to share our knowledge. I used to be a front-end developer for quite a long time. My superpower is Angular, and occasionally I just realized that for me I need to go further. I need to become a full-stack developer. So I've started to learn clouds, and thanks to universe, I've got a project, like one-man army project, where I needed to do everything. So on my current project, I'm the only developer. So I needed to do all the things. So of course, front-end, and some back-end, and some DevOps, and even testing. So I also granted a possibility to a freedom to choose the technical stack. I've started to learn. So first of all, I was thinking about doing something in the cloud, but GCP or AWS, it was a little bit too powerful for that. So I've decided to work on Firebase, and you know, that was a good solution. That was a good choice, because actually if you need a very lightweight cloud for your application, which actually can store some data, get some data, and operate the data, do something with the security, and of course host your application, this is a right choice. And of course there are we will cover only web part of the Firebase, but there are many of them. You can even use Firebase as a separate storage for something or a microservice. So it's the possibilities are for nowadays tasks, they are quite impressive. So before we start, let's explore the Firebase project. So I've created a project already. I'm in so-called Spark plan, which means it's a free plan. And what do we have here? So we have a lot of nice things. We have authentication, but I will not cover it today. We will cover it maybe in a separate tech talk, because it's a quite huge thing. And sometimes people who haven't worked with Firebase, they can stuck in some places. So probably there will be a separate tech talk. And today I will show you how to work with Cloud Functions and actually how to start your Firebase application and to start your journey in the beautiful, magical world of Firebase. So okay, so today we'll have a pretty simple thing. So we will have a database. I've already created collection. I've already created document. This is NoSQL database. It's if you've been working with IndexedDB or maybe MongoDB. So I think that's you are absolutely familiar with that. Well, but we will cover a little bit later. And also we have so-called Cloud Functions. So and this will be the main part of my talk. But before we start, not before we start, but as we started, so we have a project overview, and Firebase gives us a possibility to do some project settings. Without them, your project won't go. So when you create your project, you need to create and register your application. So you can click Add Application, and you will have a separate special ID for your application, and this will be linked to your application. You will need it later. And here you will have an SDK setup. So, for example, if we are using npm, this is Firebase config, which you will need for your application. So it tells Firebase what are our IDs, what are the API keys, and so on. But of course, please, on production, please pay attention that security rules oblige us to store all sensitive data, like API key. We need to store those data in environment variables. And yeah. So this is just a code which we can have. And yeah, I think we can proceed to the coding. So this is a let's explore what do we have in Firebase. Let's explore what we have after we run Firebase init. What we have. So of course not modules, but yes, we have index.js because you can actually choose to work with TypeScript, but I chose JS just for simplicity, and some package log, package.json, and so on. So this is I've just copy pasted all of our Firebase config object. I've just copy pasted it here. So let's see what's going on here. So we have functions, actually, which we are importing functions. I didn't go with modules. So because, well, it's the simplest code, but of course I encourage you to work in modules way because, well, it's a better thing. And Firebase config. So let's check that. Let's do the smoke test. So we have a terminal, and oh yes, and I will run all my code in emulator because this is for you for emulators. They raise a special development environment on your local machine. So this is super convenient for you to work and test your code. So we can work emulators start, and yep, so we need to understand that our code works. So here we can see that I have emulator for functions and Firestore. And we have even UI. So let's check this out. What is this? I have already it opened. Okay, so this is what we have. So we have watchers. So when we make some changes to our file, it will try to compile the functions, and it will tell us that if everything's fine or not. And yes, we have also like message that everything works. So okay, so we passed the smoke test. Okay, so everything works. Let's try to create a hello world function, but because, well, we're developers and we should start our journey with hello world. So this is very simple. So we need to have it should be exports. And the name of your function is actually the name of the API endpoint. So let's call it hello. And this will be, we will call functions, HTTPS, and on request method. And maybe if any of you has any experience with Node.js, with Express, so I think this is quite familiar for you. So this is a very common string, very common formula in Node.js in Express. So yeah, totally the same. And let's do a rest send, and I don't know, hello world. Okay, so let's save and let's see what's happening. So we see that something went here, something happened here, and actually we have we see the message that loaded function definitions from source hello. So it says it saw that we have a new function, and we have these function definitions. So it loaded, and it compiled it. So let's take a look. We also see that HTTP function initialized, and here we have an endpoint. So let's check it out. Okay, so we have a hello world. So yes, welcome to the world of cloud engineering. Okay, but probably this is not the most interesting thing, because we need to work with databases. And actually we need to do some more interesting stuff here. So let's try to do some more interesting things. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a simple function that will take the data from the database. So let's explore our database, which I showed you previously. So we need to click Firestore database and see. So just for the ones who are not familiar with NoSQL databases, I will give you a very, very short introduction. What is this? So NoSQL database, it's like they don't have a table representation. It's more about documents. So if in relational database, we have actually the table, which we have columns and we have rows. Rows, they are represented usually by records, and columns, they are represented by fields. So here we have documents. So NoSQL database, it's a big collection of objects. And each object can have different fields, different properties. They can even relate to each other, but it's not the scope of our today's talk. So we created the document with this interesting ID, and this document has two fields. So it has name and it has role. Okay, so our task is to create a function that will grab the data from here and display this document in as a response. So here, as you can see, this is just a get request. Of course, you can use post request. You can use curl to make get request, but in browser it's fine to do that. Okay, so let's try to create the function. So exports. Let's call it user. And we should have the same. So functions, HTTPS on request, and we also have two arguments, request and response. And we have something this, and okay. So what do we need to do? We need to grab the data. And let's suppose that we've got ID in our request. So, but I will just hard code it here. So, and we can in the future you can freely extract this in the request from the request object. So let's call it ID, and I will have this ID from this big one from the document. This is the same. This is document ID. So I've just hard-coded it just to demonstrate how we can extract the data. Okay, so what do we need to do? We need to, first of all, we need to grab the document, and we need to tell Firebase where we should get it actually. So for that, there are very convenient functions called getFirestore, doc, and getDoc. So you can import it from Firebase and Firestore. So let me, I will delete it just for the convenience. Okay, and we have initialized app. So what do we need to do? We need to initialize database. Okay. So we have. We need to have DB, and this DB will be get Firestore. Oh, I think I've deleted app. Okay, equals initialize app Firebase config. And we need to have a database object where we can do something with the database. So DB, it's pretty simple. Get Firestore from application. So the app line, it says that we are initializing our application from the Firebase config that we have here, and DB, it's a database handler which gets Firestore object from the application. Okay, so let's check if we are still passing our smoke test. So yeah, so everything's fine here. Okay. So let's move further. Now we have something to do with the database. Now we have documents functions. So everything's fine. And let's actually grab the document. So we have a quite convenient function called doc reference. Let's call it docref, and let's grab the reference of the document from the database. So doc, and in doc we are passing first db. This is our on line 15. We can see db equals get firestore, so db handler, and we need also to have fb talk. This is the name of the database. This one, actually, this is the collection and the document. So the name of the collection and the name of the document which we are described in ID variable, constant, sorry. Okay, so now we have a reference to the document, and now the true magic begins. So we need to grab a snapshot of the document, because Firestore, it's not a database, like it's not a database that will obviously log and do something like in the particular time. So actually it's not like I'm making requests and no one can make a request at this time. No. So we need to grab a snapshot. So let's call it doc snap, and we need to get doc ref. So we are getting the document from the docref, but this is this was like my first when I did the code for the first time. So I had some interesting effect. So doc snap. Okay. Okay, so we have loaded our function. And we have here in our console, yes, we can see that we have user, and this is, and we've got user, and you can see that it's quite smart, so it won't reload our hello. It just reloads our user, because hello, we didn't make any changes to hello. So okay, and we get nothing. This is because quite common error, quite common mistake that docsnap, it's actually it returns promise, and we try to do something with the data before we even get it. Yeah, because JavaScript has event loop and actually asynchronous language. Okay, so for that we can use then, of course, but I will use async. So I think you are aware of this syntax sugar async. So here we can get await and docsnap. Okay, and we can reload the user, and we see that it's a big thing. So you can see you can do a lot of interesting things with your request, but we need we need somehow to extract the data. So of course you can explore it, and I really encourage you to explore to understand the magic that comes behind the database that comes behind the Firebase magic. And but here I will show we can just call the method called data. And what we have, okay, let's check. Okay, loaded. And we have all the data that we have in database. That's a good thing. So let's check. So I don't know, let's add another field. I don't know. Let's call it song name. And so we have a song name. And let's check here. See that we have role, song, and name. And please pay attention that sometimes in our code we need to have a particular order of fields. Sometimes we have such a tasks, and here we don't. Firebase does not guarantee that we have the same order as we defined it. So please pay attention to that. And you can, if you want, you can do, I don't know, you can do some sorting, or you can define an order in your code. But sometimes things can. So see that we have. No, it's the same order. So sometimes we have those kind of problems. So please pay attention to that. And finally, probably you can have, so I won't implement that, but I will just explain how it works. So probably you will have, you have a question, how can I actually, what can I do if I need, for example, to make a post request? So you have, here you have request object where you can actually pull all the necessary, extract all the necessary data like get params, body, request body, the method, and so on. So you can work here, and this will be, for you it will be a nice and convenient way. And finally, sometimes you would like to work with more common tools like Express. And yes, you can use Express in Firebase in Cloud Functions, but sometimes it's not the best way to do it, because if you need to create something really simple with simple logic, you can use Cloud Functions. And I encourage you to at least to create your Hello World application and consider Firebase as a candidate to host your data, like simple application, and to help you to build your application. So this concludes my presentation, and I would be happy to listen to your questions. So feel free to ask any questions. I will be happy to answer them. Okay, so it could be I'm a really good presenter, or just nobody. Everyone would like to take a look at the documentation by itself. Oh, okay, I have a question.
Hi.
Hi.
I have a question. I'm not a JS developer at all. Mm-hmm. I'm an Android developer. And but I saw the presentation topic, and I like to be here just because of Firebase. I want to know what can do more. For example, just persistent data, or what else we can do with the Firebase from application perspective, I mean.
Yes, of course, Firebase is quite commonly used to store the data, and actually Cloud Functions, they're used to create a simple backend. For Android, we have like a lot of things for Android, for Swift, and you see you can just add Firebase to your application, even Unity. So yes, you can create a simple backend for that, and for Android, if you're writing in Kotlin, there are several different packages which actually can provide you a very good very good API to work with Firebase. But if you want to write cloud functions for Firebase in Kotlin, this could be a little bit tricky, because Firebase encourages you to write in TypeScript or JavaScript. So, in a nutshell, if you want, you can connect your application, no matter on which platform or on which language it's developed. Of course, you can connect to Firebase, and you can use a REST API or even more things like PubSub, gRPC, and so on. Yeah, because Firebase is developed by Google. So yes, for you, there are a lot of different SDKs. So yeah, just take a look and find. Yeah, you're welcome. Just a second.
Hello. Thank you for the presentation. I have a question. Where Firebase is located? So, do we have regions like in Amazon, GCP, and are there any regions that is somewhere near the Poland?
Yeah. Yes, we have Europe region, and when you create like if you're familiar with clouds, you can. Actually, when you are creating an application, you can choose the region that you want. So, but of course, it's persistent as any cloud. I don't know where it's located in Poland, but as far as you maybe know, that Google built like data center in somewhere in Warsaw. So probably you've read communication from Google. So yes, we have, but I don't know if they host Firebase there.
Hello, thank you for the presentation. I have next question. What is included in a free tier? What I can do without paying?
Actually, you can do some basic things like hosting, database, and actually, I think you can. Let's open it. You can explore. You can just explore what are the tiers, but if you need a very simple application which just stores the data in some database, the Spark tier would be more than enough for you. So see, we have a lot of things to do. This is Builder. This is some release and monitor, and yes, they have Crashlytics, which is probably if you're familiar with the GCP, they have things like that, analytics and some things to help users. So yeah, so you can just explore the tiers and find. Okay, now can we do something with the TV? Oh, but okay. Yeah. So anything else?
Yeah. Hi everyone. Thank you for your presentations. I really like the theme for your IDI. And I have two questions actually. The first one will be about the routing. And you presented that we have like a simple routes, like just, for example, hello or users. But what about the more complex one? For example, we have users, we have some ID of this user, and we have some collections. How it will be declared through the experts?
Actually, you can. Yes, there are things in SDK. You can also work with routes, and you can access all the necessary data, all the necessary parameters from the request object. But yes, there are. You can just take a look. They have, I think it's called routing. So you can set, for example, API/v1, something like that, and also you can have, I don't know, users /ID/collection/ID/ something else. So yes, there are routing SDK for that. So yeah, of course you can use it. And in case if you need some complex one, you can always use Express for that.
Okay, thank you. And the second one will be back to the regions. Probably the pre-question for that is all the functions that you've just created, they will be like deployed just on the local machine, yeah? Then I have a question. Could you please redirect on the third tab when we have the emulators tab? Maybe on the fourth one when we have the call.
This one?
Yeah. So in
US
the past we have the US central one. What does it mean? How it works locally? Because, for example, you don't have a region, but you've deployed. And as far as I see, there is no. As far as I saw, there was no any configurations for the default region, for example. And is there any necessary for that for the local deployment, local start?
Absolutely, it's not necessary. So it generates. It's generated by the emulator. So it just shows you how it could look like in the in the wild. And if you need to set up a region, you can always you can do actually you have to do it when you're creating the application. So that's it. And yes, of course you can deploy your application to. You can also deploy your application to the cloud, but I don't have it set up. But I think we can try it. No, something working. No. Yeah, so you can see that it should be on the Blaze pay as you go plan to complete this command. So yeah, cloud functions probably, but there is a possibility to have it on free tier, but it has very limited functionality.
Okay, thank you then.
Yeah, you're welcome.
My question will be about limits. So you said that, the Firebase is like a great start, but let's imagine that I would like to go to production, and where will be my limits with Firebase? So
that's a good question. Depends on what you need. For example, if you need to have a very intense environment, for example, for TensorFlow, or if you need to have several cloud-built instances, probably Firebase it's not the best thing, because Firebase actually it's a simplified version of GCP, and actually Firebase is a part of GCP. So if you need to have multiple instances, if you need to have Cloud Run, and if you need to have, a lot of virtual machines and very intense, calculation intense functionality, probably Firebase is not the best thing. So for Firebase, it helps you to have a very simple hosting with some serverless features like cloud functions and some storage. So it's for some CRUD applications, it would be pretty fun, pretty nice. But if you need something more complex, probably not. And that's why I told you that in the beginning that Firebase could be used as a microservice. So yeah, you can do it. So
all right, thank you.
Thanks.
Anton, we have a question from our YouTube translation. Yeah, from Andrei Ovchinnikov.
Okay.
So, hello, is there any GUI for data insert for project start, or we can use only API for first migration?
Of course there is an API, and this DB, you can actually create, you can programmatically insert any data into the database, of course.
Okay, but the question is about any UI, that would be user-friendly for developer, that help you to make this migration.
I'm not familiar, to be honest, about the UI which can help you with the migration, because all the migrations that I did it programmatically or some scripting. So probably I don't have an answer right now.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and the second question from Andrei. So actually this is the same about the paid plans, but maybe you know any educational plan for someone. So from his words, it's very expensive to use Firebase when you have a lot of requests, but maybe are there anything else, some discounts for developers, for government? I don't know.
That's a good question, and I think it should be carefully learned from the Firebase, because I'm not familiar about discounts or something like that. But I think yes, I think there is a free tier like we have in GCP, where you can just educate yourself and do something with the cloud. But I don't know. I'm not familiar too much about Firebase, and this is not in the scope of our talk. But yeah, if you would still have any questions like that, you can always reach me, and I will be happy to help.
He wants to clarify.
Okay.
Yeah. So his situation that when they fill the database, there was people that use API in not appropriate way. So maybe there is some solution that can help them. So
you mean that API? You mean API key? And okay. So it's about
API and fill the data into database.
Well, I think it's more Google to investigate that and to do something with that, because when you create actually your account, and when you create a new application, you place a tick that, hey, hereby I'm just out that I will not use Firebase for something evil. But yes, of course, there are automatic systems that, like intelligent ones, quite smart ones, that can do a really good job for just detecting those fraud things.
Okay, thank you very much, and special thank you from Andrei.
Oh, you're welcome, Andrei.
Don't forget to like our video, subscribe to our channel, and check social media links in the description below, so you will know about upcoming events here in Poland and can participate as a participant or maybe as a speaker.